I've lived 1,000 lives. I've piloted 1,000 souls. I've killed and fought and died just for another role.
This is the Happy Jacks RPG podcast, a roundtable discussion that's a mix of friendship, humor, unbridled enthusiasm, and tabletop RPG topics sent in from around the world.
Just for another role.
Hello, and welcome to Season 34, Episode 21 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. My name is Kimmy.
I'm Jason.
I'm Burke.
Woohoo! And today, in today's episode, Steve from Cambridge asks about converting OSR games to more narrative systems. Peter asks about playing PBTA for the first time. And from the archive in 2020, Andrew asks about handling diseases in games in a way that doesn't trigger people. If you'd like to contribute a question or story to the show, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com or post in the mailbag channel of the Discord. And as always, please write in. We're like treading water with a topics amount, but we can always use more. All right, announcements. Season 34 is ending this month. We will have a 2-week break between this season and then launch into season number 35. Very exciting. And our Indie Designer of the Month. Our Indie Designer of the Month for December is Megan Dawson Jaffe. They. Megan Dawson Jaffe is an LGBTQIA plus designer and behind Nerd City Games. You can find their work by searching Nerd City on DriveThruRPG or looking for Nerd City on Instagram. This week we're talking about Rememorex. This book is a narrative-driven storytelling game designed to evoke the warm memories of a lost genre of adventure. The VHS era brought with it a certain specific type of hero, kids with nothing but the power of heart and the help of their friends. This genre is nostalgia. From Trapper Keepers, oh, I feel attacked with Trapper Keepers, okay.
Yeah.
Especially, oh man, okay. To MTV, to Mr. T, Rememorex is about telling stories in an American where cynicism hasn't yet eclipsed fantasy.
Well, hold on. This might be our age gap. Did you put brown paper bags over your textbooks?
No, by the time
Yes.
I was in school, they sold like paper for that
Yeah,
specifically.
Okay.
But man, the Lisa Frank Trapper Keepers were like my jam, and like specifically which unicorn
Yeah.
or Pegasus I would take that year. Yeah, it's a thing. You'll start in the fiction town of Clearfield, Delaware, a town of station wagons and tree houses and bikes in the woods. It's a town where a generation of dreams is in neon and chrome. But everyone gets up every morning to learn social studies and race home to watch cartoons with sugary cereal. Everything is fine until the strangeling comes. You might be a brain, an athlete, a princess, a criminal, or a basket case, but you're still a regular kid attending school. You have normal problems, avoiding bullies, or collecting stickers, or G.I. Joe guys, or hanging out at the mall and making sure the right person asks you to the homecoming dance. Then something strange comes into your normal suburban life. Something weird, something other, that forces you to do things that you didn't think you could do. You rise to the challenge of saving the newcomer who has come to you, a normal suburban kid for salvation. Your journey begins here. Welcome to Rememorex. And the PDF version is $15 on DriveThruRPG.
Have you guys seen the cover for this?
It's
It's
very cool.
so cool.
This sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing looking. And I just love that it's like E.T. And there are a lot of genre games like this where you are kind of made to fight against the other, things like that, where it's like kind of Stranger Things-esque, where it's like you, normal kid, versus the thing. And I love in this one, it's sort of like you were trying to protect the other or whatever this weird thing is.
Yeah.
So I like that that's a little
Harry
bit
and
of
the
an
Hendersons.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I loved that movie. Oh my gosh. Oh, my
Yep.
Harry.
I also
oh.
love the name of it, Rememorex. Like it's
Yeah.
it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's just such a perfect concept. I love it.
It is. Yeah, I want to play. This seems cool.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, the young people now, young people today, they don't get it. They like Kids on Bikes, Tales from the Loop. Like, they do not they can't play these games because they're like, hey, this weird thing is happening. I tell an adult, like, okay, that's a good thing to do in real life, but like, this is the the conceit of how we were. Like, sure, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Yeah.
So I love that these games exist because it's a time capsule of, and a little bit of an exaggeration of how we grew up. But yeah, I don't know. That's
I mean, like, as an 80s 90s kid, like there are things that it just didn't occur to, like I was a total goody two shoes, like total square, like told my parents everything, like I still am, but like there were things I never told my parents that, like, me thinking now as a parent, just horrified me.
oh yeah.
Like I used to live near a bunch of orange groves because Riverside used to be like an agricultural town. So we'd go and we'd just explore. Like me and my friends would just go out and run around in the orange groves for the day. Uh,
It
they
still
were-
is. They just grow weird stuff out there now.
yeah. No. We cook meth. It's fine. But legit. I think we've lost meth capital of the world now, but like
Oh,
we're
that's
number
that-
2 still.
Okay, hey, number 2. All right.
But like we used to cross like barbed wire fences and climb over stuff. We got shot at with salt pellets one time because
Oh,
we were
wow.
on land we knew we shouldn't be on, and it like we were back a couple hours later, and it just never occurred to me to tell my mom about that until like much later in life. And then she was like, "What happened? What?" She like lost her shit. I was like, "This is why I didn't tell you, I guess."
Mhm. Yeah.
Also, I'd forgotten I hadn't told her, honestly. I was like, "Of course I told you about that." She's like, "You did not." I was like, "Oh, cool. Oh, anyway, so yeah, it's very, I don't know, there's just a different mindset. Like even goody two shoes people didn't tell their parents everything you did while you were running around. I don't know. All right. Yes. Anyway, very cool game, very cool cover, very cool premise. Go save ET or whatever the weird other is, the Strangeling, and yeah, it's a very cool game.
Yeah.
And we're excited.
It's also on sale right now. I
It
looked and I
is.
saw it's actually only $10.50 right now, which is really
Oh my
cool
God.
too.
Okay,
So
yeah, go get it.
Yeah, I saw that it was on sale, but I wanted like the evergreen
Oh, sorry.
price. No, it's
Sure.
good. But it's usually $15. But if you go quickly, as of December 1st, 2024, I think it's a Black Friday sale because,
Sure.
you know.
Why not?
Yeah. Go get it right now. And if not, if you're hearing this later, it's $15. You still should pick it up because it's cool. All right. Should we start the emails, friends?
Oh yeah, might as well.
All right.
one quick announcement.
Oh,
Discord. We
Yes.
decided on the date. We decided on the date for game days in January, which is January 11th, and it'll fall a little bit on the 12th and a little bit on the 10th because we're all from all over the place.
time zones are messed up.
Yes.
I'm going to say that right now.
So come sign up. Come think about it. Think about what you want to run or play in or whatever, and come join us. It's a ton of fun.
It is so much fun. And yeah, I'm excited. And I'm hoping to run something this time finally. I'm very excited.
And it's worth noting if you're like debating whether you want to come play with us, maybe you haven't been active on the Discord before. This is not a Gygax apologist community. That's having been in the news lately. It's just not that community, right? Some of us play D&D, but we're not. It's
different. Well, and also
Every time
Good.
every time I play in game days, there's always like people that I didn't even know they were on the Discord. Like they just come and they lurk and they have a good time like reading everything, and then game days comes on, they like swoop into the games and they have a great time. So
Yeah.
it's all good. I've
Yeah.
met some really cool people that I've added to my friends list, and hopefully I'll play with on non game days games too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you don't have to feel like you're obligated to be super active on the Discord to play. It's not that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a community thing, and like Brooke was saying, there's people who have joined the Discord and only play the games. They like never talk in the Discord, which is totally acceptable. We'd love to talk to you, but if you want to just play, that's cool too. We don't call it lurkers. We get it. I lurk on so many Discords. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I lurk on almost every Discord I'm on, but
Yeah.
like, and I always like to add this too. If you do want to at me on our Discord, I'm happy to join in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I just have all my notifications turned off except for at notifications.
Yeah.
So, I guess I'm just antisocial. I don't know. I don't get Discord,
That's
but
the first thing that comes to mind. Were you?
Yeah.
Like when I think of you.
yeah,
that's
I
it.
just don't. I don't get along with people,
Yeah.
and I want to. That's such a lie.
It just is a lot, especially to track throughout the day.
I had such a good time. I had to do an interview for a school project, and sat down with a librarian and within like 15 minutes, I was getting the tea of what was going on behind the scenes at the library. I'm like, oh, I think I'm good at getting along with people. This is fun for me.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right.
This is great.
Yes.
And it was a lovely librarian, and it was a very enjoyable experience. But it was just like, I told my partner about it later, and she was like, yeah, people like you, dummy. I was like, that's going to bounce off. I can't accept that information. Yeah, good time to restart the computer, probably, right?
No.
No? Okay.
I don't know if you all heard the dinghy to the computer's like, restart now. I'm like, no, please don't do that. Please, no. Right.
Rose, by all means, please, at me. That's fine. I think I'm supposed to read this one, right?
Yes.
Mailbag 1. Hiya, Jackers. That's enough for me. I like that. Steve here from Cambridge. Hey, a quick note. I love when the people who write in throw their name in at the top, right? So I know who we're making fun of. I mean, who we're supporting, and you know,
yeah.
I don't know. I just love that.
And the Happy Jacks tradition of from wherever you are, because that's always I just like that part.
Yeah,
that's
but
why we have the map where like everyone marks where they are from, because I just like looking at that and pretending like it's world domination, but not. But it's nice.
Yeah, but I frequently I'll go and read the sign off just so I know, like, oh, this is somebody I know from the Discord or something, right? Like, and then that's kind of a fun context to have. Anyway, I'm not going to comment on every sentence, I promise. Steve here from Cambridge. I thought I'd send you a quick email to help restock your shelves.
We appreciate it.
I've started GMing some regular one-shot or small number of shots in a horror channel. It's an important enunciation there. Horror, not a horror channel, on Discord lately. And I decided that a fine thing to do was revisit the original Ravenloft, as in AD&D I6? What is that? I6?
The module number,
Yeah.
I6.
Oh, okay. Thank you. But use a more narrative style system. So get all the vibe and ditch the cruft, as it were. I decided to try the Trophy Gold system, as it seemed to be a good fit for what I was looking for, and I was keen to try it out. As it says on the pack, Trophy Gold is a collaborative storytelling game about a group of treasure hunters on an expedition to a haunted environment that doesn't want them there. That does describe Ravenloft, actually.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It also has the benefit of being designed for conversion from old school essentials / revival systems, and includes suggested means to convert OSR scenarios in its free quick start, though not in the full version. This then meant that my next task was converting Ravenloft from AD&D to Trophy Gold. Almost by definition, if I'm converting an OSR rule set, then the narrative type game rule set will be unlikely to have analogous mechanics and often will accomplish a host of different effects through abstraction. For example, in Trophy Gold, taking advantage of a foe's weakness, be it silver weapons to sunlight, simply reduces their endurance score, making it more likely to defeat the foe without damage to yourself. Therefore, my presumption is that we shouldn't worry too much about simulating, capital S, the original design. We should try to emulate the original design.
Ooh.
I like where this is
I
going.
like that.
In other words, we want the overall result to be similar, not necessarily how you get there. For example, again, in Trophy Gold, combat is handled in a number of roles. In a small number of roles, possibly just one role. So simulating regeneration becomes tricky. I went for making the PCs increasingly less likely to succeed with every subsequent roll, thus emulating the impact of regeneration, driving the PCs to finish their opponent as quickly as possible. I can still narrate the effect of regeneration by telling the players the minor effects of their slashing attacks disappearing as they face their foe, and the end result should be similar. My questions then. 1. If my key goal is to keep the vibe, then what aspects should I consider when converting an OSR, or just about any scenario, to a narrative game system? Next, considering there are a lot of flaws in 70s and 80s game scenarios, how far should I go in terms of attempting to correct perceived inadequacies in the original scenario? Keep up the great work and happy jacking. Best, Steve from Cambridge, or at DOSmania on the Discord.
Ooh, good question.
This is good stuff.
Yeah. So I think choosing Trophy Gold is an interesting choice. I think it's probably like Trophy Dark is more like the horror system. And honestly, that's the one that I like more of the two. I think it's very elegantly done. I feel like Trophy Gold in a lot of ways was like an add-on, like, hey, we need something that isn't a horror, like a horror movie where you end terribly, where we want to have more of an adventure. Where like in Ravenloft, it's not like Call of Cthulhu. You want them to win at the end. So Trophy Gold was modified from Trophy Dark to be more like a heroic adventure type game. I think it lost some of the cool, unique elements that are in Trophy, the original one.
I still, just totally side note,
Mhm.
I keep picturing this as like Trophy Brewery, and there's like Trophy Dark Beer and Trophy Gold as their like lager or whatever, and I just want that.
Yeah.
I hope like the makers of this should become brewers and make branded beer to sell with their RPG. That's a
There you go.
normal and reasonable thing to want from
Yes.
small creators.
There's a pitch. Okay.
Yeah, get the stickers.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I agree. I think Trophy Dark is hands down my favorite thing. But Ravenloft isn't a quick module.
No.
Like it's actually fairly long. Like the castle's big. So I can see wanting to do something like Gold that'll like extend that a little bit longer for how long you need to play it. And even Gold isn't kind to your players. Like it's still a pretty brutal game, which I think makes a certain amount of sense.
So I haven't played Trophy. Can you all give me like a rough sense of like resolving an encounter with Trophy system?
Off the top of my head, I can't.
Okay.
Brooke, are you able to?
Okay, I've played Trophy 4 times now, and I still have a hard time with it because it's
Okay.
it's such an interesting concept. Because if I remember right, it's basically like a set number of d6s that you're rolling, and successes are 6s, 5s, and 6s. I don't remember. It's dice pool and then success, but they're very small dice pools. And narrative is the thing that like creates more or less dice. Every trophy person in the world is like, shut up, Ferk. Like you have no idea what you're talking about. But that's roughly the concept.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I played it once. I played Trophy Dark one time. I really liked it, and then I played part of a Trophy Gold game, and then like we were at a con, so it got interrupted.
Yeah. I played a one shot that Tomes ran one time like 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't have maybe I might have played with the Gauntlet one time, but I just don't have a strong memory of the resolution mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I will say about converting adventures into like old adventures into modern day role playing is you can take the beats of the story and like turn it into, like if you were going to design a scenario for whatever game you like running in, you could take the bullet points of that story and play that game, right? Like you might not have statted monsters or whatever, but if it's a game system you want to run it in, you probably know how to make some monsters on the fly. And if you have time to prep, you can probably have a rough idea. But like, so one of my favorite book adventures of all time that I ran in, I don't know, whenever it came out in the early 90s for Shadowrun was the Universal Brotherhood story. And the thing that's important about it is not like what the name of the secretary of the office was or, what kind of gun so-and-so was carrying. What was important was that this cult abducted a rich person's kid, and now you're getting hired to find them because the cult made a wrong move. They finally made a mistake, right? And you're going to go in and I could do spoilers for a 30-year-old game module,
fine,
right?
that's
You're going to go in and find out that they are infesting them with bug spirits, and it's like the fly situation where they're sort of half human, half bug, and like none of that was system dependent. Like what I just described, none of that was system dependent, right? That was just like shit that happened in the story. And Ravenloft is a really cool setting. If you unplug it from all the foofara of Dungeons and Dragons, it's a super cool story. And I would say, like, it doesn't matter if this encounter is supposed to be 6, animated armors and an imp, right? It's like, that's fine. You could have an animated, like, whatever it is. It doesn't matter that the animated armors have AC 17 and 116 hit points, and none of that is what's important when you're trying to adapt something. So if my key goal is to keep the vibe, which is Steve's question here, what aspects should I consider when converting an OSR? I would say get the bullet point, like flip open the book, and I assume you're running Ravenloft also because you know Ravenloft well. If you don't, you should probably read it a bunch before you want to run it.
and convert it.
Right. But what I would say is you have Trophy Gold, and then you're just going to make a bullet list of things that are supposed to happen in Ravenloft, right? You need to have a list of like these things. It's important that these happen sequentially because of this, and this, but then at sequence 2, any of these 3 things could happen. At sequence 3, any of these 3 things could happen. And, then you still have some of that, the flow and the choice, and the players are getting to do what they want. But I would say unplug from the rules as much as, even if I was going to run Ravenloft, like that old module in D&D 5.2024, I would just ignore the rules for most of it. And I would look up like, oh, okay, they want this, they got these animated, I have no idea if animated armors are, I forget what that monster is even supposed to be called, but I would just go to the new monster manual and get like, oh yeah, okay, here we go, I'll use these instead. Because nobody in the 80s was thinking about game balance.
And Steve nailed it. Like he said, in his own email, emulate, not simulate, right? Like it's the perfect way of describing converting. I feel like I'm probably the wrong person to talk about OSR because every time I've looked at OSR, I'm like, this doesn't seem interesting to me. It's too condensed of something I don't like. Right. Like it's like, it feels like always like a dungeon crawl. I hear I'm playing it wrong. I'm not playing with the right people or whatever, but that's always how I feel about it. But I think Ravenloft has 6 iconic things, right? It has the Dracula equivalent of Strahd. It has the friends. It has the Burgomaster. It has the creepy guy in one of the rooms. Like all these few things. It's easy enough to take those things and base your new adventure. Basically, is what you're doing. You're creating a new adventure around those iconic moments. And I think that's the most important thing.
It seems interesting to me that you would take like the old school Ravenloft because it's been redone a bunch of times. And I don't know. I don't know if it would be easier to convert a newer version of it. It may not be. I'm not sure how Trophy. I haven't read the PDF that you were referring to that has like the guide for conversion. So maybe it is actually easier to convert old school stuff than newer stuff. That might be very much the case. But I don't know if it would be easier. I don't know. It might be even informative to see what has changed and what they've kept the same. Because those elements that they've kept the same in different versions and rewrites or editions of Ravenloft and Strahd and stuff might be pretty like core concepts that you should make sure are in there. That might give you some hints at what really locked down and what the designers have felt are important to keep in there.
Yeah, because there's 2 big pieces around something like Ravenloft from the 80s. There are people who loved it because of the dungeon crawl that it was, and there were people that loved it because of the story beats that it hit, and there are people who love both of those things, right? And so all of those things aside, if I'm hearing I don't want it for the crunch, I want it for the story, that's not even a conversion anymore. For me, if I'm sitting down to do it, I'm just ripping the story beats out into a Google Doc with bullet points and leaving the rules on the cutting room floor and using trophy or whatever I'm using instead, and just using new, like having the type of encounter, like, oh, the point of this encounter is that you're in a pit and it's dark and there's slimes oozing out of the wall. Okay, that's cool and scary. It doesn't matter how many hit points they have. It doesn't matter, like, that's a cool scary thing that you have to deal with, right? Or like you're on point, like fighting a vampire like Strahd is scary because he's regenerating, right? That's terrifying. Like that's we all love vampire stories because they're scary, right? They're powerful and they're fast and they're regenerate and they can mind control and they're sexy. My favorite Strahd, Sarah ran a one shot for us when Pinnacles was we were on a break. This is for like 4 people. Ran a bit of Strahd, and the one change that they made flipped Strahd to she/her.
Yeah.
And the whole story was so much more fun and interesting and, less misogynistic. And there was like, it was just so much more interesting of a story. And so that's the kind of stuff like, what do you want out of running Ravenloft, right? Is it seems like what you want is to tell this cool story. That's great. But if your happy memories of Ravenloft, I was like, oh, it was a cool story, but I really loved these battles and the way they played out. Like, I don't know that conversion is your friend in that case, because you're not going to get the same feeling of a knockdown, drag out Dungeons and Dragons boss fight with a modern day narrative game. And that's fine, right? Like, those serve different purposes. And I don't know.
Didn't Chris Gray do like a whole thing with Dungeon Caster where he like tore apart Tomb of Horrors or something, did this exact same thing? Like I feel like that can also I there's a whole podcast on it at some point. I know that he talked about it. Probably be good to go listen to that again. But like I think there's a lot there for it. But I think it just depends what you're looking for.
Yeah.
If you want it to be a room by room, play in Old School Essentials. Old School Essentials is a fantastic, equivalent of the time or whatever. Or if, you want to play it even more narrative, throw it in Fate or something, like do something really off the wall. Like there's a lot of options there for that.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I didn't play 1.6 or whatever it was, but I've played the Curse of Strahd. I did like a partial campaign of it and all this stuff with like multiple sessions. Last time I tried D&D in 2020. But there was a very interesting element of it, which was kind of exploring the castle and exploring these different places. It was very much like that the kind of horror movie vibe where you like from this room, okay, there's nothing in this room. Next room, oh, there's a thing. And I don't usually like that. Honestly, it was a lot more fun with it being horror movie, because like rather than just like a dungeon crawl where you're like, why are we actually going in all these rooms? Oh, to kill things and steal treasure. Cool. Okay. Like there was like reasons why you'd go in each room to try and find out more information and stuff like that.
Right.
Which probably should be included in any normal dungeon crawl, but
well, and I think the thing that we get tripped up with as gamers a lot, and a lot of games do this to, like, some games are very successful at this. I'm not saying it's impossible or no one's done it well, but the problem is like the real difference in genre between like action adventure and horror, even like horror adventure, horror almost always it has to embrace the idea of the unknown and powerlessness. Right? Like that. And most D&D, like the design of D&D embraces power fantasy. Right? Of like, fantasy fulfillment, maybe a little self-insert as a treat, right? Like whatever it is you're doing, none of that, like almost no game lends itself to horror because you generally know what's happening. You generally have no reason to not just go in swinging. You know, that feeling in, is it Alien or Aliens, where it's a game over, man. They're all around us. Is that the first one? Alien?
Alien is the horror one. Aliens is the action adventure
Right.
one.
That feeling of panic, gamers don't panic. We go, what's their AC? Right? How many dice do I have? What, like, do I get a bonus for this roll for shooting into the dark, or?
Chat has informed us it's Aliens.
Okay, thank
Plural.
you. Thank you. So that was Aliens, I think, is a master class. Like, yes, Alien is a horror and Aliens is a more of an action, but I think it captures what we want in a role-playing game horror scenario.
Yeah.
Because it is action-oriented, and the heroes, like in most RPGs, we play to win.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I know we're all story gamers here, and that sounds like a horrible thing to say, but like, unless we're playing 10 Candles, we all kind of assume we're gonna come out the other end.
Or Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, sure.
Or Trophy Dark.
Or Trophy Dark, yeah.
Right. But with those very narrow exceptions, the assumption is you're going to come out the other end one way or the other.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe your character will get killed, but that's not like like the worst, horrible, scary thing that could happen to you.
Yes.
Right. Like in Alien, your character could get infested with a thing that is going to take over your body and kill you from the inside out, and there's nothing you could do about it.
Right.
It doesn't matter how strong you are, how fast you are, how smart you are. This thing got you. You got, and you're toast. There's nothing you could do about it. That's what a lot of people like about zombie films, right? Like, if you get bit, you're done. I know you don't.
It's okay.
But
That's the reason the Alien, the game by Free League, is so good, is it hits on all those things. It has an action-y part of feel of it. It also has that great feeling of dread, that build-up feeling of like it's getting worse and worse and worse. And because you trick yourself in the beginning thinking, oh, I can make it to the end. And then, you know, as you watch things, it was like, I'm not going to make it to the end. I'm super not going to make it to the end. It's a wonderful feeling.
Well, and it's that expectation change. Like, you start off, oh yeah, I'm going to make it, no problem. And then as like reality sinks in, like that loss of hope and trust in the people around you, like definitely like it is part of that genre that is so hard to get in TTRPGs, like for a lot of the reasons you already said, Jason, but that change in mindsets is hard to do when you've got that meta component.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I got my character sheet in black and white. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm bad at. I have that comfort of having some amount of power at the table. But you have to give that up. You have to give up a lot of your, like, my agency.
Yeah. I think it's interesting though, because like Ravenloft, as a D&D game, like, or as a D&D adventure, like, is still that power fantasy. So I don't know, like, while it has scary horror elements, I don't know if I would actually classify any D&D stuff as like true horror.
Yeah, like people were mentioning the Temple of Elemental Evil was not a horror story. It's a scary story. It's an adventure trap-filled, meat grinder of a dungeon.
Yes.
But that's not what horror is, right? That's like gory action.
Yeah.
Right? But like, I can't even think of it. But like,
the idea is for you to beat the adventure or die.
Yeah.
And it's like a kind of a binary, like, you win or you don't.
Right.
You know?
And if you die, it's not this horrific, like, oh God, it's like, damn, the dice roll got me. There was, got me in the end. I didn't win. Oh well.
Yeah.
Versus like the fucking magic of something like 10 Candles.
Yeah.
Both times I've played it, I forgot. At some point, I glossed over. I went into it knowing this is a game where we don't make it, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're just telling the story of how we didn't make it. It's perfect.
10 Candles might be the best game of all time, though.
And
like, not joking. 10 Candles really might be the best game of all time.
So good.
And both times I played it, I forgot and fucking suffered a glimmer of hope
Yeah.
that we were going to make it.
Yeah.
God damn it. I cried both times
Yeah.
at the end of both games. And it's just like that level of storytelling. And it's not, there's no GM in charge. We're all, and like, yes, I'm friends with the greatest role players of all time as well. So that's helpful. But like, the game sets you up for that success.
Yeah.
It outlines what to do. And I think part of the reason why there's that success, what is your character sheet in 10 Candles?
Mm-hmm.
It's like three 3x5 cards, right? There's little note cards that somebody and 2 of them you didn't write yourself.
Yeah.
You just were inflicted on you. You're like, boom, already your control is given up. Most of your control is given up. So
Yeah, for me, it's the visual, the actual candles and them slowly going out, like grabbing and capturing that feeling we were talking a minute ago about, that hope, like loss of hope and like resignation of the end coming and the inevitability of it. So I, again, like having not read this original adventure, like if you can grab elements of that, I think that will make it more true horror rather than just scary adventure.
Yeah.
And I think there are elements, definitely pieces in Trophy Dark to do that. Trophy Gold is pretty brutal, but I'm not sure it captures that horror elements quite as well because it's meant for more long form play. While Trophy Dark is designed specifically for one shot type play. That one shot type play is really, it's hard to keep that horror thing burning. So I would actually look at other systems, not to switch systems, but to see if there's anything you can nab from like something like 10 Candles or something similar to that has that element of that you could that you could kind of like weave in, which could be really cool.
Yeah. And I think to answer Steve's second question, how far should I go in terms of attempting to correct perceived inadequacies? Leave it, right? Like what you want is the story.
Yeah.
Right. It's like each individual encounter design doesn't matter to you, right? No, what's the point of this encounter, right? Is it that there's a key hidden under the floorboard and once you beat these guys, you'll get a chance to find it? Is it that the walls are closing in and you're trying to find a way to save yourself there? Like, what is the point of the encounter? And just take that.
Mm-hmm.
And, whether it's Trophy or some other system that you're going to come up with a resolution mechanic that feels better to you, the fewer stats you have on the page, the less agency your players have to play their characters, the closer you get to telling a horror story.
I'm going to push back on that. I don't necessarily agree with that.
Okay, well.
I'm just because.
Yeah.
Like I've played like true horror Call of Cthulhu games, and Call of Cthulhu has a bunch of stats and skills.
Yeah, and I don't find it scary at all.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is the setup of that and the slow burn of how you create the story. I do think it is more challenging when there's a lot of things, but there's also something really powerful in having a bunch of really great stats and skills and having it make no fucks of difference.
Yeah, and that's for me when Cthulhu is set up that way. It's just frustrating to me that I have all this stuff and it's all fucking pointless and doesn't do anything. Like, why do I even have this character sheet?
Oh,
right.
Okay.
That's a meta level frustration.
I see.
Where in a horror game we're supposed to embrace the fact that you have very limited power in the situation.
Yeah.
And Call of Cthulhu has never felt like a tense, scary horror scenario to me.
Okay.
It has felt like a death spiral. You don't have enough dice or points to do anything well. And it just feels like a poorly designed game to me rather than a horror scenario.
Oh, interesting. To me, there's like the contrast of me being a very capable person taking on things that are so beyond, that are like god level beings. That dichotomy is something that is very terror invoking to me. Like I can be like, for like one of the most recent campaigns we did, like I was an amazing shot. I was like an amazing fighter. I could kick everybody's ass. And then like these things would come at us and it was like, fuck all, I'm running. Like, cause I very quickly learned like I couldn't do shit against them. So there was like that element of when things came up on us, like, is this a human thing that we can fight? Is this like the unknown of that and the powerlessness of that? I think personally, just because of my personality, I hate that feeling of powerlessness. So it really spoke to something that would like make me afraid in real life.
Yeah.
So I think that you kind of have to like, and again, also like 10 Candles, like you said, also very evocative of that. So I think a lot of it has to do with how it's constructed at the table. Because I could absolutely see with a GM who maybe didn't know me so well, or a GM like who didn't do as good a job, you could have a very just frustrating experience with that.
Yeah. So like we actually are agreeing.
Yes.
We're saying like you're just describing like you enjoyed the loss of the disempowerment
Yes.
in Call of Cthulhu, and for me it just felt frustrating.
Yeah.
And so but the point is, if you sorry, Brooke, what did you want to say?
No, on the flip side of that, what game has more power than 10 Candles where you're putting down truths? You have narrative control to put down truths of the world.
That's a good point.
And it happens, and yet it still is scary and intense and wonderful. So I feel like there is definitely a give and take on that as well. It's not just disempowerment.
Yeah, I think for that, it's in that level, we've empowered the player to embrace that their character isn't going to make it. Right? And
So you want character disempowerment and player empowerment.
Yeah. And
I like that.
Call of Cthulhu game, for me personally, this is not like a top level criticism. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like here's the promise of a character sheet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's all the shit that you're good at. Oh, it doesn't fucking matter. Oh, why did I make the character sheet then? Like, yes, now I feel disempowered and blah, blah, blah. Like, but why did I go to the trouble of making this character sheet if I'm all, anyway, yeah.
Character sheets holding you back, man.
There it is.
Well, I also think that, yeah, seriously. That's a long callback.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it also is on the GM to make the character sheet matter and then make it not matter, like in systems like that. Like, there should be points, and there were points in the story where my sharpshooting was really important. We got information because I, did a shooting contest with someone who thought, because I was a girl, they'd beat me. And then, nope, we got this really important, stuff that was a big plot point from that. So it wasn't useful against the monsters that we were faced with.
Mm-hmm.
But there were times where it was really important to the story. So I think there's a balance of that. And I'm not saying Call of Cthulhu's for you. But
no, that's great. If you had that experience in Call of Cthulhu, that's awesome.
But I do think you have a valid point where if the character sheets just absolutely don't matter at all in the story, then that is totally a frustrating, upsetting experience. So yeah, and you do have to kind of go into Call of Cthulhu knowing what different skills and stuff do. It could absolutely be terrible for someone who they built a character and then they realized all of these skills did nothing, and also useful skills they didn't take because they didn't realize, oh, hey, this mysticism or whatever it is, knowing about this could actually save my life more than the gun. Yeah. Stuff like that.
I just thought of a really good comparison, right? Aliens, they are, maybe they'll make some sequels to that movie someday. But actually, Alien Romulus was really good. I just watched that recently. Mm-hmm. But those movies, you're just constantly overpowered. Ripley, spoiler, barely survives. For 1979, spoilers. But a movie like The Predator, right, which is scary because this alien has all this technology and hunting prowess and could fucking turn invisible and has laser guns when we've got pew pew. Mm-hmm. That was a action film, not a horror film, because Arnold Schwarzenegger was able to, if it bleeds, we can kill it. That is, he's empowered, right? Yeah. He has the ability to fight this thing. Yeah. Right? It's not a scary spirit in the woods that is just going to pick you off by one. It's a person, right? Yeah. It's a person in a rubber suit, and you could do something about it. Yeah. And so that, to me, is like the crux of the difference between action adventure and a horror film, where, Arnold Schwarzenegger's friend, I don't even remember what his character's name is in that movie. his friends get picked off because bad luck and surprise, and this guy is an incredibly good hunter. I also love the Predator franchise, but it's Dutch. Thank you. And I don't know. I forget exactly what I was going to say with that, but I really that encapsulates the whole thing for me. Is like Dutch was strong enough to fight the Predator and did something about it, right? But it was because he was an epic peak human, right, in the context of the movie, and was able to go toe to toe with this guy, and ultimately didn't really beat him. The Predator like blew himself up. Again, spoilers. Sorry. That joke is cracking me up more than anything. But the promise of Call of Cthulhu, also a story of game designers not thinking about what their acronym was going to spell out. But the promise of Call of Cthulhu is, here you go. Here's a character who's strong enough to do something about their lot in life.
Yeah.
And but no, you're not.
Yeah. Well,
right.
It's also like Alien. Like Ripley doesn't know what she's up against. Nobody knows what they're up against. She survives barely. And then Aliens 2, she's like, oh, I got this shit. I know how to kill this thing. I know all about this. And they like up the ante a little bit.
Right.
But it's like there's a base knowledge there that they can take it on.
Right.
That empowers her. So I think that's the big difference. While she's still like massively outpowered, at least she has like the level of knowledge of what to do about it, how to do some basic things.
Yeah. You're not just up against this unknowable, question mark. But in the first movie too, it's also great. Like she's not a soldier.
No, I
right?
love that.
Mm-mm. Yeah, she's like, I forget what her role on the team was, but like, she's just a Joe who works for, Wayland Yutani and manages to survive against all odds. And then you're right. In the second one, she's like, oh shit, I know what's happening here. You all need to listen to me. Yeah. And that's just a different scenario. Yeah. And I like that the movie embraced that and didn't pretend like we don't know what's happening. Yeah. Right. You can't repeat Alien. Mm-hmm. It was, the lightning in a bottle. But Alien 3 sure didn't need to happen.
It didn't. I didn't know what you're talking about.
Oh, 4. 4 is the worst.
4 was even worse.
3 is funny enough that I enjoy it. It is a comedy.
I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. Going back to the question too. I would say that it would depend on what perceived inadequacies there were. If there are perceived inadequacies about racist or misogynistic or shit like that, then absolutely you should definitely correct that shit. If it's like, oh, this is an unbalanced encounter, like, screw it. Like, that's not going to be a thing that impacts you. But kind of be thoughtful about, like, some of those inadequacies that may not be so clearly, like, something like a stat change or something that you would do. So just kind of keep your eye out for that, because a lot of that old school stuff has that in there. Sometimes a little bit between the lines. You have to kind of, like, look at it really close.
I wonder if, because I don't know this, I don't know the Ravenloft, I6 module that well. I know in Curse of Strahd, the player characters get whisked away from whatever it is they're doing and brought to Barovia, and you have to do whatever. And I always wanted to back up one step from that of like, from Strahd's point of view, why did he bring them? What? He's the god of this region. Like, why did he bring leveled characters, like heroes to the world? Like, I think, like, if I was going to run Curse of Strahd, I would want to answer like, oh, he wants a challenge. He's bored. He's the Predator, right? Like, he's like pulling in a worthy challenge for himself. And then once he proves himself in that way, he will have accomplished some internal goal, whatever. But I've always like, one step, but like I want to know before the start of the Curse of Strahd, why though?
They play with that a little bit in the Curse of Strahd book.
Oh, okay,
like
okay,
later
cool.
on, a little bit talking about his concepts or whatever. There is some of that stuff. None of that stuff is in I6 though. I6 is very, for its time, I6 was revolutionary, right? Like it was so beyond the realm of any other module that been produced at that point. But by today's standards, it's still basically just a dungeon crawl with some story.
Yeah, I don't remember that part from when I played the campaign. Honestly, I don't know if we actually got to that like revelation about like this is why. I feel like it was like an accident, but I might not be remember. Like it was also many years ago, and I played a lot of campaigns. I feel like we got there by mistake. And
Well, then that really undermines my fear of Strahd, right?
Yeah.
Of like, oh, whoopsie. Like,
well, we got there and we couldn't leave, and like I feel like we had to go talk to him to get home somehow, or to like he has the way to get home.
The setups I've always seen were you're walking through the woods, the mist comes up, and you wind up there, right? Through like maybe you got lost in the woods or what, but like he is in control of this area. He could keep people out and has made it an isolated space because that increases his power.
Yeah.
And I
don't know if that's accurate. Like again,
yeah,
I wasn't able to play the full campaign. I was trying to teach online at the time. It was very stressful. But yeah, that was also a campaign where our GM was amazing, and like I'd literally just had Laurel in, and it was like one of those things where we did our lines and bails. I was like, child harm. And he was like, oh God, there's so much child harm. And he did a great job of like changing. So I have no idea, like there might have been stuff that's in the actual Curse of Strahd campaign that was changed dramatically because we were not allowed to have child harm, which he did a great job of.
remind me after the show, are you going to watch the Dune series?
Oh, the one about the prophets.
Prophecy?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a content warning for you after the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, what do they call the brag? I forget what they're
Benny
called.
Gesserit?
Yeah, Benny Gesserit. Thank you. I literally was just listening to like a history of Dune YouTube thing right before this, and I can't believe I went blank. They're like super like I never assume when I watch something in Dune that it's going to not be some sort of trigger or awful thing. But thank you.
Okay.
Like I am ready. But I've heard really good things about it.
I'm enjoying it.
Oh, okay.
I started episode 3, and I love it.
Okay, good. Sam's a huge like Dune fan. He's loved how the movies have stayed really true to the messages of the books and like anti-imperialism and stuff like that. And so he's a little nervous. He's like, I'm gonna wait before I go look at it, but for good things.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
mailbag number 2. We talked a lot. I don't know if we answered your question, Steve from Cambridge, but
no, we did. We fix it. We fix horror gaming.
Everything.
I mean, you're welcome, America and the world.
And everyone.
We talked a lot from Narrative Mountain, but like I think we got there.
I think we did. But yeah, if we weren't clear on any aspects of it, and also just write back to let us know how it goes, because I'd be super interested. I don't think I've ever talked to someone. I know people have done it, but I haven't talked to anybody who's run anything but the pre-written incursions or something they've created. I haven't actually talked to any friends who've done a conversion of old OSR stuff. Incursions are what they call the pre-written adventures for Trophy. So that's like their word for their written adventures for the system. So I would love to hear how that conversion goes. Because the incursions are written well for it. A bunch of people have written different incursions you can buy, and people have done their own stuff. But yeah, I'd be interested to see how, especially D&D type stuff, old school D&D stuff, like transfers over.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, now mailbag number 2. Brooke, you were gonna read this one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, Happy Jackers. I've been playing RPGs on and off for about 20 years, but I never played a PBTA game. The way people talk about them makes them sound very different to what I'm used to, i.e. GURPS, 7th, 1st and 2nd edition, 2 acronyms I have no idea what they are, Star Trek Adventures, 1st edition, etc. I'm the GM of our group, and none of the others have played PBTA either.
Oh, Quags is Quick Ask Gaming System. That's where Laser Ponies is in.
Oh, okay, but I don't know what
okay.
RISUS is.
I don't know.
Maybe someone in chat knows.
Yeah.
Rodents of unusual size? I don't believe they exist. I'm the GM of our group, and none of the others have played PBTA either. I'd really like to try running Starscape or Night Witches. Starscape, yeah. But I'm almost intimidated because they sound so different. Do you have any advice, Peter?
Oh boy, do I.
I figured this was the night for this email.
Burke, you go first. I've
Okay.
talked so much tonight.
I'm happy to go first on this one because I've had a very similar experience with Peter. I had never heard about PBTA until I was listening to the podcast years and years ago, and they started talking about it, and I was like, oh, that sounds weird. I'm not into hippie games. I'm not interested. But I was totally wrong. I feel like as I started to listen more and stuff, I started to get more and more interested, and then I saw Monster of the Week played. Adam running Monster of the Week, which was Chef's Kiss good, and it suckered me in. And so I watched some APs, I read the books, I thought about it, and then I tried. And I think that's the answer. You just try. You pick up one that you think fits your weird niche, right? Because PBTA is all about some weird niche that you want to play out because nothing broad in PBTA ever works well. It has to be some weird niche. And then you play that with your friends and it goes terrible or it goes amazing and everyone sits around completely confused for the first two sessions. But eventually you get there and then it clicks for everyone. Everyone's like, oh, I get it. And it's amazing.
Or
It's a little weird at first.
you go to an organized online gaming community, let's say in January, and sit down at someone's table running something. And also your Chef's Kiss is on point because Adam is a master chef when it comes to this. My first PBTA was Adam running Masks, and that
Yeah.
literally the light shone down from the heavens, and like I was almost at the point of being done with tabletop RPGs.
Yeah.
Like that's where I was, because I was like, yeah, this like no one wants to play Shadowrun with me. No one wants to play Scion. It takes an hour and a half to make a character, but I can't get anyone to play the stuff I want to play. Like, fuck it. Like it's too hard. And then sat down to play a game like this where everyone made their character in about 10 minutes and we're off and running because, like you said, Verk, it embraces a trope, right? Of whatever, each character is a trope. All those tropes are part of a narrative style that is so lean, right? And it's like, this is what the story is about. We're going to play Shadowrun. What's the story about? Oh boy. There's too much. Let me sum up.
Yeah. So specifically Night Witches. I really love Night Witches and a lot of the design in it. It is a lot more complicated than a lot of other PBTA games. There's different phases, like there's the day phase and the night phase. It is very specifically about the experience of Russian women that were the Night Witches, that were flying these basically like death-defying, like expecting death missions during the World War, and the misogyny they faced, the fact that they would sometimes fall in love with each other, things like that. There's like so much there that's tied into that. Like, make sure that that's the game you want to play. If it is, such great design. So interesting how the day and the night phases change. Like your night phases are when you're flying, these missions, and how that changes. And then the day is like all the stuff you're dealing with each other and your superior officers. You actually can get medals. There's so much cool design work in it, but it tells a very specific story, like Brooke was just saying. So really, whichever game you pick, make sure you are prepared to experience the story that it's telling.
Right.
Because I know people who picked up Night Witches thinking, oh, this is like a dogfighting game. Yeah, no. That is an element of it. That is not what that game is about.
Right. It's important to understand the point of the PBTA game, because a well-designed PBTA game is honed so finely. You pick up Masks. It's like superheroes. Ah, cool. I love superheroes. They kick people through walls and stuff. Like, nope, they do. But the reason it's so good is we're talking about teenage superheroes. We're talking about their feelings and how they hurt each other's feelings and who they want to smooch, right? Like, that is the point of the game. And that's why all the superpowers can be so loosey-goosey and whatever, because it doesn't fucking matter if Superman can beat Batman, right? Like, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Right? That is not the point. In the comic books, it's not the point. And if that's what you're worried about, you miss the point of what superheroes are about.
Yeah.
And when you look at a game like Starscape, it is not just Firefly, right? It's about what made Firefly good was the found family component of the characters learning about each other and betraying each other and dealing with each other. And like, that is the point of the story. Even Star Trek, like, don't worry about what dilithium crystals do. Like, if you get down to the heart of what Star Trek is about, it's about the crew and, the sort of political implications of what they're up to, and having the stance of we are not a warship, right? It is such an incredible take in sci-fi universes that is the point of the story. And when you go to play something like GURPS or Shadowrun or Rifts or whatever, there is no point of the story. You make it, it's bring your own point is what I mean to say, right? Like, you could play, street kids in Shadowrun. You could play corporate guards, or, it's make your own story. And a PBTA, what you want to know going into it is telling you what to do.
Yeah.
Right. And it's telling you to do a very specific thing and have fun while you're doing it. But you have to embrace that, right? Like, when I first sat down and read Apocalypse World, I was like, wow, Vince, stop telling me what to do. You're not my real dad. Because he's very like aggressive in telling you, don't fucking do this. Like, he's cursing in the text of it. And to some degree, I actually think like Vince and Baker, their brilliant vision was honed and made even better by some of the things that came after it, like Masks, like Starscape, those types of games. I actually don't think Demigods is as well honed as what some of the, because I specifically was rebelling against some of what Apocalypse World was telling me to do.
Okay.
And I was like, I want a longer campaign. I want to make it up as I go. Like, so I'm not actually using that as an example here.
Okay.
Like, I don't think it's as good at playing a one shot, right? Like, it benefits from longer format play. So if you embrace and make sure your group knows this story is about this one thing, that's going to sing.
Yeah. The difference is, say, like, going to a restaurant like Cheesecake Factory or Denny's. I'm trying to think, because like Cheesecake Factory has like 8 million pages on their menu. And yes, you can get cheesecake because it's a Cheesecake Factory, but you can also get, like orange chicken, or you can get a pizza, or you can get like all these different things. Like, there's so many things on the menu. So that's more what I liken to bigger systems like GURPS or D&D or things like that, where people are like, you can play anything in that. You're like, yes. And I love some of those systems. PBTA is very much like living in a big city where there's a million tiny hole-in-the-wall places that do like one type of thing really well. There's like that perfect Chinese food place, that amazing Indian food place. Or if you're like me and you live like 3 blocks from an incredible Thai food place, so good, like very lucky. So, or whatever it is, Italian.
Or like a Michelin star meatball sub place,
Yeah.
right? Like, if you can imagine what that would be, right? It's like, we are going to do this one thing so fucking well.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. That's what PBTA is trying to do.
Yeah. So, like, if you go into Night Witches and, / the Chinese food restaurant, and you're like, I would like a pizza, you're gonna be disappointed. And they're gonna look at you weird. It's not gonna work. You're not gonna have a good time. It's just not gonna be great. So you want to make sure that you're wanting what the game is giving. Yeah.
And actually, in chat, I think another example that doesn't necessarily meet the height of PBTA, a game I like is Veil, the cyberpunk game.
Yeah.
I really like it, but they're like, hey, let's use the PBTA resolution mechanics, but it's still this open-ended cyberpunk game. Like, I don't think it's as finely honed into what is the point of cyberpunk. Like, well, hopefully it's about rebelling against oppressive capitalism.
Yeah.
Right? And I think it does that, but that is such a big genre that I don't know that it's as aggressively funneling you into that specific outcome. And I like the Veil for that, right? I like that it's more open-ended because I love my cyberpunk shit, and I'm gonna do what I want.
Yeah.
But the best PBTA games tell you their thesis statement and fucking stick to it.
Yeah. So my advice would be to pick carefully. Like I would like you would do if you're having people over, you're like, okay, we're gonna order takeout. We can order from I'm gonna continue with my restaurant, metaphor because I haven't eaten dinner. But okay, we can order Italian, we can order Chinese, we can order Thai or Indian food. Which one of these do you want? You can tell what I feel like eating right now. And ask your group of players what do you feel like trying, and be really clear. These are the different PBTA games. Here's what you want to play.
Yeah.
And let them buy in on that, because that will really, if everybody comes to the table knowing what kind of story they're going to play, that's the biggest hurdle. Because it's not like in a lot of other games where you have to kind of explain everything. You have to explain the details of the world. But if everybody knows coming to the table, this is the type of story we're going to play, it's going to be like Teen Titans or, Young Justice.
Yeah.
It's not going to be Justice League, those specific changes.
Or even another, not a PBTA game, but is so zeroed in on what they're trying to do, is something like Tales from the Loop, right? Where Kids on Bikes is a more open-ended version of that. Tales from the Loop is you live in this town.
Yeah.
Your parents work for this company. They are around this power station, right? It is super, super focused, and this is what the story is going to be about. And for the love of God, don't start with Monster Hearts. Please. I love Monster Hearts. This is not a diss on Monster Hearts. Don't come for me, Monster Hearts fans. I fucking love it. Don't start there.
Yeah.
Please. Please. As a favor to your friend Jason, don't start with Monster Hearts.
Yeah. So,
What?
I'm biased. I think Starscape is something that's easy for a lot of people to access, because a lot of people have fondness and knowledge of found family crew stories from sci-fi. Firefly is a good example. Farscape, which is my favorite, is a great example. Stuff like that, where you have weird people on a ship together trying to work together, and also love/hating each other, and that changing and all that stuff. That's fun. But don't pick up Starscape because you want to have pew pew space battles. Mechanics for that I'm very proud of, but it's also not the heart of the game. Sorry, Burke, you were going to say something.
I was going to say, and I think one of the big things is about PBTA is selling it to your players correctly. Because if they're used to playing GURPS or something where it's very much creativity by way of openness, that is not what PBTA is. PBTA is creativity in the way of funnels, right? You need to funnel your creativity down these different paths to get to these specific points. And so when they understand that, and understand that it's not that, you can still do anything you want. It's just in a little bit more creative restriction to do specific things, and make sure you sell it to them that way. Yeah. That way they won't feel so their agency was taken away from them playing PBTA. I made that mistake.
It also can help them understand hey, this isn't such a big task to try this game, to try a one shot of this game. A bunch of the work has been done for you, right? Here's the setting. Here's one of the 8 characters you can play. This is it. Yeah. Whatever that looks like in your thing. And, actually, now that I've thought of it, I am going to toot my own horn. If you're coming from games like GURPS, Cyberpunk 2077, whatever these big 7th Sea, these big, fully open, all the way games, Demigods might be a good in between.
Yeah.
Right. I'm proud of the thing I made. I downplay it, but a bunch of really talented people contributed to it. I don't want to shit on that. I did an okay job. I'm happy with it.
It's probably okay.
But it is. It's one of the okayest games around, and I think it is built for campaign level play, 15 to 20 sessions. It's not as good in a one shot setting. And if that is a better in between versus going all the way to Masks, which is so fucking filed down and a just armor piercing bullet into your feelings, then maybe that is a good middle ground.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think the clearest difference that I would be upfront with was kind of akin to what Burke was saying, was that also not just the game having a story, but each playbook has kind of a story built into it. And that can be hard for players the first time because they're used to like creating their stats and creating their backstory, and that is what informs like their character arc. For PBTA, each playbook has a character arc kind of built in already. And you get to come up with your background and stuff. You know, there's some suggestions, but don't have to, they're guidelines, not actual rules, as you say. But you kind of can go through that. So like the Doomed playbook in Mask is a great example. Like you are, whatever your superpower is, like there's a reason you are going to be destroyed by it. So whether you're a cyborg who has some sort of power source that eventually will go, nuclear and like destroy you, or whether you are like the Hulk and slowly becoming like a monster and you won't be able to be human anymore, or whatever it is. There's lots of variations on the flavor of that playbook, but the story of it is kind of the same every time. And maybe you'll find a way to overcome it and switch to a different playbook, which I've seen happen. Or maybe you will have that doomed end, and that's how your character ends. Like, so each playbook kind of has a frame there. So in addition to, it's kind of like those frames all putting together like a mosaic. So each playbook is kind of the set piece that you put together that creates the game. And I think that's the really important design understanding when you're playing PBTA, is that whichever archetypes you pick, whichever playbooks your players pick, that will be kind of the guide for this very honed story. And that can change. Like a well-designed PBTA game, any combination of the playbooks works. But that's something to kind of express to them ahead of time too, because a lot of people can find that very grating when they take great pride in how they create their unique characters. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean that they're any less unique. It just means that the story they're going to tell is a little bit predefined.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way.
Yeah.
Good way to put it.
Yeah. But, I don't know. Write in again, and we can, like, give you suggestions on which ones to play.
Yeah, as far as, like, really concrete, like, Starscape is a great place to start. I wouldn't start with Night Witches because, like, again, for the same reason I wouldn't start with Monster Hearts, right? It is so specific, and what the point of that game is not what you think it is, right? It's not immediately obvious. They're awesome, interesting, amazing games, but it's not what you think it is, and it's not what it looks like on the tin, and is hard to explain to your players who have also never tried anything like this. But something like Starscape, Masks, I'm trying to think of other really good PBTA. I mean, even Apocalypse World, really. Like, if you wanted to play some Mad Max, whatever, like, or a zombie apocalypse, or what, like, Apocalypse World is flexible enough, but has a really clear through line. Mm-hmm. Those are, I think, are really good places to start. Don't ever bother with Dungeon World. Just throw that in the trash. I did. I threw my copy away.
Monster of the Week.
Okay. So
I love Monster Week as a start point.
Monster of the Week as a starting point, yes, but it's not the best implementation of PBT.
Agreed.
And again, I love that game, but it is more open-ended, kind of like the Veil. Like, I don't know that it really hit the level of focus, that like laser focus that is where PBTA really sings.
It's sort of like that first generation of PBTA hacks that are more general and open. Yeah.
Whereas like Monster of the Week did a good job of being first generation, and Dungeon World did a shit job. That's how I feel about it.
Also just shit person. So
yeah.
That's enough for me not to play that one. So if you have a story that you want to tell, or a genre that you know your players are interested in, look around, because there's absolutely a PBTA hack for that.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if I know the name of it, but there's a hack for that. It's
there's a Discord where somebody knows the name of it, and it's happyjacks.org/Discord.
I can guarantee you, like, Rose or Mike will know.
Yeah.
A game that you can play.
Come in there, at me, at Rose. I'm giving you permission to at Rose.
Yeah, there's a lot of people there who would love to give you their recommendations for different types of genres of PBTA, 100%. Mm-hmm. But that would be my first suggestion. And if you have a group of all Femi players, Night Witches might be an okay place to start, because they will have that. Having played that game once with a group of mostly femme players, That was an incredible experience. Most of us had never played it before. We went in understanding PBTA.
Yeah, see, that's the difference.
Yeah, but that's like we immediately got this game and everything and what it was about because it echoed our lived experience in many ways. Not that we're, Russian secret, fighter pilots, but like the struggles, the misogyny, all these other things, like
Yeah.
very interesting. So
The only reason I'm saying not to start there
No,
is because they probably don't understand the premise
Yes.
of PBTA in general,
Yes.
let alone the specific premise of any particular game.
yeah.
And that one is so cool and so well designed and so hyper specific.
Yeah, exactly. But just kind of like just trying to give a little bit more insight into the specificity of these games and how some people will get them immediately based on their own lived experience or the media they love, and others won't. So, yeah, my Russian is also very great, though. I've been told. Speaking of Adam's Monster of the Week game, how excellent my Russian accent is. It's not. Spoilers. Not good.
It's just as good as my Scottish accent.
That's true. I will take that compliment.
Significantly better than your Scottish accent. I'd like to be clear.
Okay, it's as good as my Welsh accent.
Okay, there we go. Which is actually you accidentally sounding Welsh when you're doing a Scottish accent. Okay. All right. Last email. Oh, did you have something else to say, Bert?
No.
Okay. Mailbag 3. It's from the archive in 2020. Good evening, happiest of Jackers. I want to start off by saying thank you to Kimmy and Stu's advice for my L5R court game. It helps to make the first session fun and memorable experience, and my players are chomping at the bit. Should be champing. For more. But on to more pressing matters. I will be filling in for a friend who can't run his normal game in 2 weeks. I have decided to do a one-shot of demigods for that week.
Was it what now?
So extra bonus points if
I hadn't
Jason
read
is
ahead.
extra bonus points if Jason is around when you read this. I came up with a topical idea for a one-shot. The coronavirus is actually a disease released by the awakening of an old god to infect the gods and demigods to drain their godly power and finish this reawakening to our world. The players will have to work together to reverse this process, save the world, yada yada. I plan on the players seeing the virus to do two different things to their fellow demigods. First, and most commonly, just draining their power until they have nothing left and cease to exist. Also, in rare cases, the virus will turn the demigods into an abomination, looking to spread the virus for its new evil overlord. I want the players to have to deal with this in a group. So to start off, everything an NPC demigod from their weave will go missing and perish to the virus. This will work great for installing a threat, but I also want the players themselves to have to deal with the virus themselves. What is a good way to handle diseases in a game? What are good ways it can be implemented to make your players afraid of it and makes its effects without removing any player agency or ruining their fun? Thanks again for everything you guys and gals do for the hobby, Andrew. P.S. This was a bit longer of an email. No, it wasn't. So drink. I'll drink,
boy.
but PPS, shout out to Kimmy and her Decima Kickstarter. I cannot wait to have a copy to use with my group.
I hope it goes well.
I hope it goes well. So 2020. So I'll start on this one as someone who's still very COVID cautious. If you can't tell, I'm wearing a mask right now because I was on a plane yesterday and I just want to be safe. I'm going to, isolate from my family for the next few days as much as I can, wear a mask when I'm around my family and, at school. I did testing today. It was negative. I'm going to do testing 3 days out and then 7 days out. And then I still don't eat inside at restaurants and stuff if I can do any other options. Like occasionally if I have to at a convention and it's like raining outside or snowing and there's snow outside, but I love living in LA because almost every place has outdoor eating. This would be very upsetting to me. So my first recommendation would be you can have viruses in games, especially things that are more supernatural in nature. Definitely don't base it on actual worldwide pandemics, or at least not current ones.
Yeah.
So like if you wanted to do one with, the Spanish flu or the Black Plague, I've also done stories kind of on that. I might have a little bit of a different take on that now, but if something more historical that people don't have like emotional, and complications and still having complications from, something we're still kind of scared of, or a lot of people are scared of, would be my very first recommendation for this. So
Yeah, like the level of check-in, like even if I had 5 players and they all said, "Yeah, I'm okay with this being the truth behind coronavirus," I'm not sure. I'm not sure I would run it, right? Because they might even feel pressured to be like, yeah, it's fine. Like I'm just not going to.
Mhm.
I I lost people. I know people who lost people. It's so close,
Yeah.
right? And I think also maybe in 2020, I don't know when they wrote this email, but like in April of 2020, we didn't know people were dying,
Mhm.
right? And I again, I don't want to stay on that specific part of this too much, but like, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Personally, disease stuff is easy to do, right? There's lots of stuff you could do with that.
Mhm.
I just wouldn't call it that, and
Yeah.
I would have some other effect of like, oh, it's like a soft zombification or something. Like there's something going on with it that is, like, do you want it to be apocalyptical? Do you want it to apocalyptic? Apocalyptical is like when you go really hard at the gym on the elliptical. um, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think for this specifically, I would, at least for my comfort level, like first of all, definitely it's a thing that is listed in all my lines and veils documents, which you can't tell who fills in what. So that way I would know all my players like had the chance to opt out of it 100% without feeling like they would be recognized for that, so they could anonymously be like, no thank you, I'm noping out of this bullshit.
Yeah.
I would at this point still not be comfortable unless I was playing in a historic game, and even then, I don't know. I don't know. Having something that was only affecting demigods. Like this was a magical virus that was only spreading to gods and demigods. Maybe it was affecting the gods a lot and the demigods a lesser degree because they were one step removed from divinity.
And then maybe some of the demigods relations,
Yeah.
right? Like some amount of like it's trickling in a little bit, right? And then it's hitting demigods worse, and it's hitting gods the worst.
Yeah.
Right. Like that is a little breadcrumb that you could follow, and it's not a global pandemic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And maybe it does like turn the actual gods into abominations and you have to, turn them back or whatever you decide to do. But that way it's like remove there's a fantasy element there that I think makes it, at least for me, a little more palatable. And it being more magical in origin makes it, I don't know, a little
sorry, Virg, I want to get you in here too, but it also just occurred to me, I would want to visit, if I'm designing a scenario around this, I would want to be really specific and zoomed in on why this is happening, right? If it's just random chaos, that's not a very interesting story to me. If it's like, oh, well, I've seeded this in because I know it's going to get to Zeus, right? And fuck that guy, and I don't care who else gets hurt in the process, then that's interesting, right? Now we have a thesis statement of like, kill Zeus, not kill all the gods.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's pointless, and they come back and it's like, doesn't fit the world of demigods at least. But let's say you're playing, like you want to play day 0 of Apocalypse World, right? And you want to talk about how the world come down. Like, why did it happen, right? Not random chaos. Why did it happen? What can we do to stop it? Like that sort of thing is what like PBTA wants a thesis statement.
Yeah.
It wants a reason. It wants some guidance.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it that way.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are okay with a lot of things, right? Like sometimes I think we can, a lot of times can think of what we feel, what our views are one way or the other. But a lot of groups are completely fine with one thing or the other. It frankly doesn't matter. Like you're walking, this guy is walking into this group that is his normal group, but he's guest GMing or whatever. He may feel he knows these people. It doesn't matter. Have some lines and veils. This very quickly fixes itself within like 30 seconds of handing out lines and veils, right? Because to see what people are enjoy or don't enjoy. And personally, after having enough people mark off like recent events whatever those recent events are, be it pandemic or whatever, who's, whatever, doesn't matter. I just don't use it anymore.
Mhm.
Right.
Whoever is, the whatever the current world situation is, it's generic world situation. Whoever, is this person is generic this person. And then we move on. Like television shows used to be where it'd show, the general and it would be behind him and you could only see his like silhouette or whatever. And they didn't say his name, but everyone knew who it was. The same idea. Like
Yeah.
it just makes it easier for everyone. If you want to dig in hard on something, like get lines and veils in there early, talk to them about it ahead of time, plan it like weeks in advance, like work it out. But in general, I just don't anymore. It's
Yeah.
just not worth it.
Our Friday game here on Happy Jacks is Die RPG, but for the second time we needed to do a little one shot. Noir ran outgunned for us, and my character there is a member of the Them in Black, and
Love that.
it like I had not planned this, but suddenly I was talking about how people who come here should be treated with dignity and respect and welcomed and given a comfortable place to assimilate or figure out how they want to live here. I was like, I'm just gonna stop talking about that and move on. Like I didn't need to X card myself, but I was like, oh, had chills. I was like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I believe all these things, and this isn't as fun anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk about something else.
Yeah. Now I can see in 2020 when everything was still really fresh, like there is absolutely a therapeutic element to playing RPGs.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of times where I've played RPGs to get through something that, I found myself working through something I didn't know. So there might be groups who would love to play a game like this because they still have emotions about that, especially in 2020 when it was even more on more people's minds than it is now, like wanting to kind of work through their very raw emotions of this at that point. So I 100% recognize that 4 years on, like almost 5 years on, we have a very different take on this situation than at the time, especially because at the time, none of us could imagine 4 years on, we'd still be, masking and dealing with all these things. So I feel like there's a deeper level of
Yeah.
I don't know, ingrained trauma and hurt and like all this than at the time when like me in April 2020 and giving birth to my baby, I was like, okay, so the first 6 months of her life are going to be a little hard and indoors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And at the most we were like, oh, it's gonna be like at my school, we're like, okay, we're gonna take an extra, couple weeks of spring break.
yeah.
Right? We're like, oh, okay,
That will be-
it's
yeah.
like annoying, but that's safe. Let's play it safe, and
Yeah.
then we'll come back in May or whatever before summer break. And well, we know that's not what happened.
Yeah. So I think I
Yeah.
think I totally recognize that now looking at this might seem like an awful, terrible idea, or at the time it might not have seemed quite so upsetting.
Yeah.
And especially knowing your group.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, and it's a terrible idea for a
Some people.
lot of us and the people that we know, whoever or whatever it is. But there's other groups that are going to want that. They're going
Yeah.
to want that catharsis. They're going to want that experience. They love things to be, and they love it all to be on the table and emotions and raw and, hot or whatever. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's just figuring out your group
Yeah.
and not springing this on people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
like another like I love anytime I can play a character who's getting one up on capitalism, right? Like if I can be in a story where we're sticking it to the rich folks who are, disconnected and hurting people, like, yeah, fuck yeah, eat it, capitalism. That's fun, even though I am regularly impacted by capitalism and it sucks.
Right.
And everybody
Your
I know
Shadowrun
is,
showing, Jason.
yeah, I know. Surprisingly, I don't have a lot of billionaire friends.
What?
Yeah. But that is something that affects us in different ways, and we could sort of buy in or not, or have a character who's like, okay, I get that the rest of the party is out to like kill the king, but my character is like kind of a goofy, like I'm along for the ride because I'm so-and-so's little brother or whatever. Like, that's okay, right? Like, they don't have to engage with that storyline as deeply as everyone else.
Yeah.
Whereas something like global pandemic is not really like a half in, half out option.
Yeah.
So
But it can be empowering if there's a made up, like definitely still maybe not call it, but there can be catharsis to fighting against it and feeling a victory, even if it's fictional. So I can see why it would be something that some groups might be drawn to. I'm not personally going to be in that group.
Yeah.
But, there might be groups that, especially for like a fictional one, where it might be like, oh, we beat this, we saved everybody, okay, let's all go put our masks on and go back outside, whatever it is. So definitely this is a lines and veils situation, as Brooke was saying, and make sure you send it out plenty of time to change your plans, so that you don't do your whole plan adventure and then like the last minute have someone be like, oh no, definitely I can't play this game. And then you're like, cool, we'll swap it out for rotten deviled eggs that the gods ate and are very sick from.
Food poisoning.
Food poisoning.
Deviled eggs? Deviled eggs? Really, Kimmy?
Hey.
Actually, now I want to write that Demigod's adventure.
Yep. I'm in. We'll run it for Easter.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Worst idea ever, but it's hilarious.
I'm in.
All right.
Sign me up.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, before we go to outro,
yeah.
Can I tell a really quick cool thing that happened on Discord?
Yeah.
So we had someone who came to join Discord recently, and they started posting, and they've been a really long time listener of the podcast from like way back season 1. And they literally like are learning Discord to join us and to like be part of the thing. And hearing him talk about stuff like breaking down, like he's like, so what exactly is the difference between like PBTA and or trad games and story games or whatever, and like everyone like explaining it and breaking it down to piece by piece, and it's been really wild seeing that. And I just thought it was really cool to see like the old timers from like when the podcast was young and new and like joining the
34
current
years
tribe on
ago,
Discord.
Right? That's how the seasons work.
No.
No, we do 2 a
Totally how
year.
seasons
But,
work.
Yeah.
but and in a way that was all like respectful. I caught some of it,
Yeah,
right?
super.
I witnessed some of it going by, and I was like, shit, everyone's being like really nice and thoughtful and considering their words. And if somebody else was like, hey, that was something, like they're like, oh yeah, my bad. Like just the level of mature discourse for being fundamentally immature people.
I know.
Under all of that,
I resemble that remark.
yeah, you do. But under that, we care about each other, and that beats whatever else is going on. Is our care for each other in this community, and I love that.
Yeah,
So
I saw that person show up too. I was super excited. It was amazing. I don't know if they want to be like called out, so I'm not going to say the name, but yeah, it's been really cool to see. Like we've had quite a few people bopping back from like before, or like, hey, I dropped off in season 20 or season 14 or whatever, and it's cool to see people like show back, and it was really cool to see them show up, and it's nice to know that some of the old timers are still listening.
yeah.
So yeah, it's very cool. We've had a couple emails from them too, like people like, hey, long time listener.
Oh, cool. I would love to get somebody's like archive email from 10 years ago and like have them follow up on their email. Like I would love that shit.
What's funny for me is because a lot of the old emails, people had different handles.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, I'll suddenly
you mean
realize
from the MeWe?
from the MeWe. Well, they'd write in with like these handles, right? And like I didn't see their actual names because Stu at the time was the one doing all the emails. So I would just hear like DT Pints, okay. And then like suddenly like years later I'd be like, wait, that person is this person? Secret. And I was like, oh my gosh. And suddenly like it's like brain explosion to realize that, they've changed their username or whatever, or however they're known in the community now. And most people probably like made the connection faster than I did. But still, every once in a while, I'll be going through the emails and be like, oh, here's an old one from, oh, shit, that's so-and-so. Oh,
Yeah.
shit, that's the same person. I can't believe
I will say to that, I really appreciate when people in Discord in their notes put like so-and-so on the forum or whatever, like that kind of shit is, love that.
All right. Thank you. Join the Discord. happyjacks.org/Discord. It's fun. And if not, that's okay too. Just write in emails. All right. Thank you for joining us for season 34, episode 21. please support our amazing indie designer of the month. That would be Megan Dawson-Jaffe, known as Nerd City Games. You can find their work by searching Nerd City on TTRPG or looking for Nerd City on Instagram. Thank you to our chat mod, James V, and to our amazing patrons who keep us ad-free and independent. You can join their amazing ranks at happyjacks.org/Patreon. I really love and appreciate our Patreons. You have been so phenomenal in the last few months, and I really love you all, and I appreciate all the messages I've received. So thank you. My name is Kimmy, and I'm here a lot. And you can find me at Golden Lasso Games on Blue Sky and everywhere else. I'm not really on Twitter, except when I was mad at the airline this weekend because it's the place I had the most followers. So I was like, okay, I'm going to roast them and at them. I was very angry. But yeah, so other than that, I'm not really on Twitter anymore. Unless you're an airline. I'm glaring at you. And then, yeah, you can find my games at goldenlassogames.com.
I'm Jason. I made a game called Demigods, if you hadn't heard. You can head over to probablyokgames.com, home of the okayest games around. Well, game for now. I am also currently doing grad school, so I'm not streaming as much as I would like to be, but I will soon be a rich and famous librarian. So that is a very exciting change in my life. A lot of people knew me here as the middle and high school teacher that I have been for 18 years, and it's been time to move on. So very excited about continuing that process.
Big money, big money.
Yeah. And my streams, however, are happening. Generally, Wednesday, Thursday always happens. Generally, always. And then sometimes I get sad and I want to stream. So streaming makes me feel better. I don't know why. Probably because I'm a tension hog. A tension hog and an attention hog. Both things. So you can find that twitch.tv/it's probably okay. Just the letters okay. And I like to play games that are hard and I die a lot. I don't know why I'm like this, but here we are.
I don't understand.
I'm Burke. You can find me on the Discord where I'm there a lot. And come join Game Days. It's going to be super fun. January 11th, a little bit 10th, a little bit 12th. Yeah. Maybe a lot of those. I don't know. That weekend.
Burke is awesome and has kind of, I was a little bit overtaxed, and a bunch of awesome people, Jason included and Kai, and a bunch of people have jumped in to help me with different aspects. And Burke, being one of our amazing mods on the Discord, jumped in and is kind of helping me do like the managerial aspects of our game days. I appreciate you, and my child who gets to see me more also appreciates that. She doesn't know it yet, but she does. So now we're going to leave you with a song in honor of the unplanned 24, almost 30 hours that I spent in the Dublin airport this week. Looking at you, stupid airline.
Name them.
Oh, Aer Lingus.
Not very cunning of them.
Name alone. Yes.
I know. Yeah, they were super great until we had problems, and then they weren't. And I spent 4 hours on the phone with them trying to get a replacement flight for the one that they canceled. So yeah, they were fantastic until they were terrible. But yeah, so angry at them, loved their name, was very excited to ride their airplane. And then yeah, they screwed me over. So I got to stare out at Ireland, which has been a dream to go there my whole life. I wasn't going there. I went to Italy. On my way back, we stopped there. We were supposed to catch the next flight. Missed that because of their delays. And so I got to stare out at Ireland from the airport for many, many hours. So our song today is called I See Ireland in Your Eyes. And it's by the world famous Poxy Boggards. You can find their music at poxyboggards.com. And I'm going to go sleep because I am pretty jet lagged. And I appreciate you all. And we will see you next week. All right?
Bye.
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 The dawn climbs over the mountains as another day's begun. I My face is warmed by the sun. Winter's chill lies white on the treetops, and its ice flows down the streams. But I am warmed by the vision of the girl that's filling my dream. I see Ireland in your eyes, her rolling fields of green, and as sure as I'm alive, 'tis the loveliest bairns e'er been. Her voice comes soft o'er the meadow, as the mist becoming rain. I turn my face to the heavens before the sound can wane. Like a lark, the sound is of silver, and her hair the finest gold. But all the richest of colors fade away to the emerald of old. I see Ireland in your eyes, her rolling fields of green, and as sure as I'm alive, 'tis the loveliest bairns e'er been. Since I began on my journey, many years have come and gone. Across the road I have traveled, and I've seen many a dawn. Now the road that I've been walking has been filled with strife and pain. But when I'm thinking of you, dear, 'tis just like